This was game 2 of the 2000 NBA Finals, the worst sprained ankle of my career.
Kobe's hurt. He's writhing in pain.
Jalen Rose slid his foot underneath mine on my jump shot and caused me to turn my ankle.
I tried to hurt Kobe Bryant in a game. I wanted to win that bad that I was willing to basically cheat to do it. He go up for the shot, act like you're contesting, let him land on your foot. You saw Zaza do this to Kawhi Leonard.
My ankle was almost the size of a volleyball.
A bad sprain. Players can take 2 weeks. They can take 3 weeks to come back. He wanted to come back the next game. And the next game, in an overtime game, he carried the win. That told me something about the level that this guy can deal with pain to play.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Nav. Today, we're going to be breaking down the year 2000 Game 2 NBA Finals famous Kobe Bryant ankle inversion injury, where you see my man Jalen Rose basically said that he did it on purpose, take Kobe out of the series, hoping that the Pacers would win. We all know what happened after that.
If I had to play on one foot, I was going to play. And he was not going to take me out of that series. You're going to learn that. You try to hurt me, I'm just going to come back stronger.
So there's 5 common things that you worry about on an ankle inversion injury like Kobe's. If we take a look at this is the left foot, and the inversion is like this, where the ankle goes inward. And this is the outside of the left foot, also called the lateral malleolus. This is the inside, the medial malleolus. Important structures, this is the talus bone. This bone here, it connects the foot to the lower leg, which is the tibia, and the smaller bone, fibula. So this talus, this bone here, connecting the tibia and the fibula, creates the ankle mortise. Now, on an inversion ankle injury, the things that you worry about are marked in black here. So these are the ligaments that stabilize this lower ankle, and they basically connect the fibula to the talus bone. On an inversion injury, these are the guys that either stretch or tear. Now, looking at it from the front, this is the anterior view. This is the anterior talus bone fibular ligament. So the ATFL is these 2 tape markers here. Looking at it laterally, you see this bone, or this ligament, or this tape connecting the fibula to the calcaneus, also called the calcaneofibular ligament. Posteriorly, or from the back, you have the posterior talofibular ligament, and you see here posteriorly, this is the talus bone, talofibular fibula ligament, posterior talofibular ligament. Together, the ATFL, CFL, and the PTFL create what we call the low ankle ligaments. And these getting torn, either altogether just getting stretched a little bit, can look like a grade 1 sprain. Some of these getting torn can look like a grade 2 sprain with more instability at the ankle joint. All of these getting torn is a grade 3 ankle sprain. Those typically require surgery and are very unstable. An additional differential to consider for an inversion ankle injury is a fibular fracture. You can imagine when you have this inversion, if it inverts enough, it'll put enough pressure on this bone that it breaks. Last thing you kind of worry about, there is a tendon that runs through here, and sometimes if you get a big enough inversion, that tendon can rip out of place and it can actually dislocate, and that's the peroneal tendon dislocation. Again, to review, you worry about a grade 1, 2, or 3 ankle sprain on inversion with or without a fibular fracture, with or without a peroneal tendon strain or rupture. In Kobe's case, we did see that he was bearing weight after the injury. He was getting up and he was trying to walk around on it. That's pretty typical of something that does not have a fracture. Most of the time when you have a fibular fracture, that player is getting carried off. Knowing Kobe, that probably wouldn't have been the case anyways, but that presentation is more in line with like a grade 1 or grade 2 ankle sprain. So now when he comes out of the game, they're gonna get an x-ray in the back to rule out a fracture. Now about 48 hours after that is where you're gonna see how much swelling there is. You could get an MRI, you could get an ultrasound to see how many ligaments are actually damaged. As long as there's no fracture and there's not much instability, the average return to play time is anywhere from 7 to 19 days for professional athletes with low ankle sprains. Kobe came back in 5. That means Kobe came back on average 2 to 14 days faster than the average pro athlete.
Wanted to come back the next game. I went to Indiana on Sunday. You're not good enough. I'm not going to play you. He was mad at me because he couldn't play in that game. But we had 2 days between the next game.
Rehab and recovery for these types of sprains starts immediately. You see right after the game, Kobe initiated what we call RICE protocol, which stands for rest, ice, compress, and elevate. This clip of his foot in the ice bucket can reduce swelling and pain. It's likely he received some anti-inflammatory medications in addition to this. Compression with or without a brace can be helpful to stabilize the joint, especially when there's severe swelling. It can help support healing by maintaining proper alignment while reducing movements that could exacerbate the injury. And then elevation would help drain the joint and decrease inflammation. We also saw Mamba receiving electrical stimulation, which sometimes can reduce pain and improve muscle function. Receiving a massage can also reduce swelling and improve blood flow. Different taping techniques have been used to help stabilize the joint and provide extra support, especially during physical therapy. As he inches closer to return to play, physical therapy will work with him to do range of motion exercises and balance training, which should progress to controlled drills and basketball-specific movements to prepare for return to play.
Is there any circumstance that you can envision right now that would keep you from playing?
Any snipers in the room?
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome tonight, the most important game of the finals.
The eyes of Indianapolis are on the ankle of Kobe Bryant.
The big question for Laker fans, will Kobe Bryant play tonight?
You need to be 95% to play. Right? Oh, okay. With 50%? We don't need 80%. I can change my game.
It was on me to figure out a way to play and be tactical. I knew what I could and couldn't do, which directions I could push off, and how much force I could apply.
Kobe is not moving well at all. He is really favoring that foot.
After establishing that, it was just a matter of altering my game within those constraints to continue dominating.
You see Kobe here as he goes to the basket. Now that's his left ankle that he has to plant when he's going that direction.
To do that, despite the injury, I had to maintain control and dictate where I was going to go with the ball and how I was going to play.
He trusts it. And this way he's going to plant that right foot to go up for this jump shot. Hangs in the air. What a tough shot. He knocks down 2 jumpers.
Even on one ankle, keep the advantage in my court and never let the defense force me to do something I didn't want to do. That was the key here, and that's the key always.
Keeps it. Jump shot. No. Stetson O'Neal battle rebound foul is called. That's a loose ball foul on Shaq. That'll be number 6. What a big play. O'Neal is gone.
I foul out. And look at Kobe, and he doesn't have a worry in the world. He says, I got you, big fella, don't worry about it.
And the 21-year-old Kobe Bryant walked boldly into the spotlight.
Your turn, Mr. Bryant. What have you got for us this time, Kobe? Pull up 22, yes! Oh!
If you want to be a hero, you've got to take hero shots.
Kobe's got to move center stage.
Here he is over Jackson.
With 12. John, a running shot. No. Rebound, Kobe Bryant puts it in.
How good is this kid?
A drink, Mr. Bryant?
Yeah, I'll have a vodka martini.
How many olives would you like?
81.